Hello everybody, this is Havoc, and welcome back to our Prehistoric Kingdom park, the Prehistoric Preserve. Apologies on the delay in this episode. My usual day of recording got a little messed up, so I just simply wasn't able to because the rest of the week got busy. But I appreciate you being here and hanging out with me today. One thing that I will say right off the bat is today we're not going to build an enclosure. We're not going to have a dinosaur. And the simple fact of that is due to our finances. And I'm not saying we're in a bad spot. But at this point, any of our dinosaurs that we were to build in our nursery, I can show you, just so you know. You see this? Animal's too large for the current nursery. Outside of the ferry area where we get our saber tooth, we haven't researched that yet. All of my dinosaurs require a larger enclosure. And now because of that, I had to research the enclosure, which cost a fair bit of money. And our excavations are getting increasingly more expensive. So just those combined things, I would rather kind of just let the game sit for a little bit. And in fact, I have, just to build up enough funds, because this game is still early access. So it's not going to necessarily work as proper as it's supposed to, I guess, by the end of early access. We are bringing in a great deal of money overall. Our profit last quarter is $163,000, which really isn't all that bad, everything considered. And you can see here where we kind of took a big dip in our in our research. So it's been almost a year that we've tried to recover this. So it's just that kind of idea that we are going to sit and let the thing be what it is. At this point, I could probably afford, a $20 million startup. But I don't know, that would be $8 million. Interest is at 40%, which is stinking bonkers to think about. But regardless, I think we'll be okay. We shouldn't need that. Now, I did want to say a couple things. First, I just noticed these guys over here. I was wondering what was going on, and it looks like everyone is stuck here. So that's super fun. Our park is plummeting. You gotta love early access games. But anyways, where was I at? That's right, excavation. So we are at the point now where we're just over 2 stars, and we're starting to be able to get bigger things. Someone had made a comment of splitting up our park based on biomes. And I really, really enjoy this idea. It really allows you to create sectors of the park that aren't necessarily tied to specific eras, but you have a thematic overview of the entire section. You can focus on desert-style buildings or desert-style terrain or desert-style exhibits over here, which is probably what we're going to end up doing. Feed these boys. We may end up turning this to all desert and then really looking at some ideas to incorporate that desert theme. Same thing over here. We have a wetland and tropical scenario. Unknowingly by myself, this actually works great. We can enclose this off, we can create our little entryways to here, and this would create a tropical wetland area, and in which case we can have like a boardwalk going over a swampy area that leads to other exhibits, or different things like that. We could have a really deeply forested area that would have some sort of exhibit tied to it, or at least just really lean into that theme. So that's what we're going to do going forward. We are going to split up our dinosaurs by what type of biome that they exist in, because I think it's an excellent idea and would really, really give this park some meaning and purpose behind everything that I'm doing with it. Now, that being said, we do have some dinosaurs that we can push into that. Oh, that's not it. Also, I can't find Bunique, so odds are Bunique is going to die, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Bunique. But I simply cannot find her. I think she's in here somewhere. But I don't know where she went. Oh, there she is. Look at that. I found her right with you guys. I do hope that they get this resolved. I did have several dinosaurs that were missing out of their exhibits, despite having fully enclosed sections. And that's a little bit frustrating, but it'll be okay. I'm not too terribly concerned about it. Again, this is an early access game. So what are we going to do today then if we don't have an enclosure? Well, I'm glad that you asked. Because I've always had this idea, and to be quite frank, forever since I was a little kid, I really wanted to be an archaeologist. Not realizing that it would be a decade's worth of education. And, I probably wouldn't necessarily be out in the field like I wanted to. But I've always loved this idea of excavating fossils. So, today, I think in this spot right here, because we do kind of want it to be a prominent feature, I think we might build ourselves an excavation exhibit where kids and adults alike can come in here. You can dig around, you can see and have some fun, and maybe learn some things about some dinosaurs, and really just have a good solid amount of fun. Get really, really dirty and sandy right before you go out into other exhibits. This is a perfect place for it. We don't really have a purpose for this section. And so that's what we are going to do. I'm probably going to build a wall around here, enclose this using assets that we have and other things. And then we're going to build a little bit of a terrain. My idea here, I'm going to explain this beforehand because I don't want to have to worry about it afterwards. But building a small platform here that's a little bit raised so, you can go in and see all the different dinosaurs, or maybe get a kind of sky view, a sky look down view to see where some potential dinosaur fossils might be. Just kind of creating a really fun environment overall. This should be a really fun thing to do. I have no idea what I'm going to do outside of those two comments that I mentioned. However, what I might do is I may reload the save and see if we can get all these people to not be so conglomerated over here. And outside of that, I thank you again, guys, for patiently waiting, I should say. Hopefully it hasn't ruined the experience for you. And let's go ahead and get started. Timeline Havoc here. Welcome to our time lapse of our little archaeological dig area. This one is going to be awesome. And for one, I wanted to close off this entire section, but also in doing so realized that I could actually make a really cool way to close off the solar panel or the wind farm area as well. But I wanted to keep this closed off to make it its own dedicated section where you kind of have your own enjoyment, and it's just really well sectioned off. Pathfinding is the trickier part to this exhibit, and that's simply because I wanted to create a good experience that looked seamless but also matched the park. So you're going to see me goof around a lot with pathfinding because I kind of want to make sections of the park that mold straight into each other, and you're going to see that's what happened exactly right here, starting right here. And it just creates a better experience, in my opinion, just from a traffic flow perspective, from just getting people to want to come in if they have to kind of go out of their way. But if you're eating lunch and you're walking on the back roads or on the back pathway, and your kid sees the archaeological dig area that maybe they just didn't before for whatever reason, they're gonna get pretty darn excited. So I apologize to any future parents who would probably take their kids here, simply because I don't give them a choice in seeing and discovering this section. But again, archaeological digs are something that have always been a big passion of mine as a child. I wanted to grow up and be an archaeologist, or a paleontologist, and an archaeologist. So digging is always just a fun experience. Plus, I'm just a boy at heart, so why not? Working on the pathway here, I wanted to create a platform to where people could come up and rest. They could kind of watch other people dig, maybe see things from the smaller, that's only, a 4-foot ridge, but be able to see things that maybe they wouldn't be able to see before. And of course, I wanted it sectioned off as well because it needs to be safe for children. But I wanted to go a little bit beyond that. We're going to work on multiple styles of fencing, working with the stone here to go with the stone sidewalk. But eventually what you're going to see is that I'm going to put rocks all around the entire section of that platform, simply to give it a nice natural feel, as it were. Just because I don't want just a hill of grass or a hill of sand. Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I love the idea of incorporating these rocks and their textures into the landscape to really give you a feel that it's built in, I should say, that it's all encompassing. So I love the features, the terraforming features, and the scalability of all of these rocks. It's one of the best features of Prehistoric Kingdom overall that I just can't get over because it does such a fantastic job. Working on some flat pieces to get rid of all of that grass, and that's it. The entryways, again, I wanted this to be a standout feature. I wanted children to see this and be like, I need to go here. So just creating those things, it wasn't very difficult. It was just a fun, creative way. I love arches. I love rock arches. It's just a super fun way to create an engaging experience with everything. But I also didn't want them to be exactly the same. So I think I accomplished that fairly well. More rocks scattered throughout the landscape, because again, I don't want this just to be dirt and rocks. And then one of the things here that I had the hardest time figuring out was what textures to use. Now, I get that not all paleontology is done in the desert and the sand, but again, we got to think of the overall experience of the kids here. Gravel is what I naturally gravitate to, because I feel like it gives the best texture for what I was wanting to go for. Now you'll see me do some texture restyling here in the very near future. I actually incorporated some clay, which I thought looked really, really good with the gravel. And then on the platform here itself, we need some space. We need some areas for people to rest and not be out in the baking sun all day long. Now, I didn't want to build my own umbrellas. I couldn't find the canopy textures that I was looking for. So what we actually went for was just some simple umbrellas, and I'm okay with this. It wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, but it worked out very well. And in the future, we'll use canopies, much like we did in the splash pad in one of the previous parks I made. Made some seating here, pretty cut and dry. Some trash cans. We're gonna work in some lighting as well to eventually we'll light up the whole place. I don't know exactly how well that's gonna go. I'm not super fantastic at it, but again, just kind of creating a nice ambiance there. And now finally to the actual fossils. Now there's only a limited number of fossils. So this isn't going to be something where, people are going to find, 80 different dinosaurs in here. I just wanted to incorporate the fossils aspect, considering that this is a paleontologist dig site, quote unquote. Incorporating things into the rocks, because if you'll know, like on the Silk Road, we had Triceratops fossils that were embedded into the cliff face where they had died, sediment had rose over it, and then eventually the seas or whatever receded and exposed them. That's the feel I was going for. Being able to see things exposed into the rock was a cool thing. And then just having some fun, having a whole spinal skeleton into the rocks and just adding stupid amounts of fossils, even if it wouldn't exist in reality. And then for this part, I thought it would be a cool idea to incorporate the idea of fossils onto the outside of the entrance, to again just really grab it, for a kid to be like, whoa, what is that? I want to go in here and do this and have this experience. So again, just kind of modifying everything to really look full without going bonkers overboard, simply because again, we're limited in the number of fossils that we have overall. And then there we go. There's the clay, which I really do think brought it together, but it looked very, very empty. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in some foliage. With this one in particular, I wanted a small rest area, but the tree didn't fit. I didn't like how it looked with the area. It didn't fit the biome. So we're going to dig here. We're going to try and find some different trees. I think I ended up going with an Aleppo pine. Took me a little while to find it though. But again, it looked too dry and barren, and not all paleontologist sites are done in the open desert with absolutely nothing around. So it didn't make sense for me to not have foliage. And again, we got to think that this is a park. It's got to look aesthetically pleasing. It's got to have shade. It's got to have areas so kids and parents alike aren't just roasting everywhere. So we found some shrubbery, we found some trees, and I worked that into the landscape to give it some life, to make it really feel like it's a part of the park and not just some barren wasteland that I just threw together for the sake of a video. And then incorporating, logs and dead trees, because that's a factor as well. Whether they're petrified or not, I'll leave that up to you. Some last little things just goofing around to see. But one thing that we're gonna really have fun with, and by fun, I mean a lot of frustration, is building the sign in here in just a second. Alright, so the sign was a very big point of frustration, and I honestly don't know what went wrong. I don't know what happened. But I had the idea of Dino Dig. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I'm not exactly like proud of the name because it's just so blatantly obvious. But what you're going to see happen here, and I'm going to show the whole thing because it is a point of frustration that I want to bring out if the devs were to watch this. For some reason, I have an inability to turn my dino digs. I figured it out right there, but you'll see later as I go on that I have an increasingly difficult time turning and rotating. And I don't know why. I don't know if there is a feature or a setting or if it's a bug, but I wanted to create a sign that went above, under the arch, but above the ground. That didn't happen, which was a very big point of frustration for me. However, as you're gonna see here, me doing and figuring out all of it, can't figure it out, so I'm actually gonna end up just deleting the asset and starting over. But I had a really cool idea that you're gonna see here in a little bit. So I'm going to redo Dino Dig. We're gonna make it 2 separate lines. And then I'm actually going to embed it in the ground. I have this idea, since I can't rotate, I don't know why I cannot rotate it. But regardless, I had this idea, well, if I can't make the sign work for me and put it up in the air, I'm actually gonna go ahead and just embed it in the ground where it's almost like a stamped piece of stone or just like some signage that we were able to embed into the ground. So we have this dark red that I really, really like, because when you embed it into the ground, it actually looks really, really good. For this last little bit, texturing it up, overall, I'm very satisfied with how it turned out despite the frustrations. Back to me in normal time. All right, everybody. Well, I actually think that went pretty darn well. I like, I'm sure I explained this in my little voiceover, but the reasoning, I understand that not all archaeological digs take place in sand and stuff like that, but I'm more thinking about the experience that the children are going to have rather than being, you know, completely and totally accurate. But I did kind of like this desert theme. I've got a little place over here, which was kind of a fun thing to do. We need to patch this little section up with a rock. And I actually think there's a small, tiny little smidgen of one, so we'll do that right there. Anything right here? No, but you know what? I don't really like how that angle is. So we're gonna do some things on the fly real quick. Just to kind of keep some of the angles a little hidden, as it were. Just to make it even look like a better experience overall. But yeah, I love this, and so this is a fun little interesting thing that I didn't anticipate doing, but I think it has some cool things. We didn't make just a standard sign. It works as not necessarily as intended, but in a way that is fun and engaging. There's a lot of stuff going on here. This I thought was a pretty cool idea. You're not really going to be able to see this until, you know what, like, even at that height, you're never going to see those solar panels or the wind things. Now, again, there's not going to be much wind here, but like we kind of have to have some give and take here just a little bit to make things look good and to make things work correctly. Overall, though, I am quite satisfied. I think it'd be cool to have, you know, we could probably get rid of like a few of these just so kids can see the waterfalls and stuff. But overall, a very successful archaeological dig area. Oh my word, I do enjoy kind of stretching that creative brain, and that really soaked up a good part without making it just something to put there just to put there. I really do think that, you know, maybe really far into the future, there's going to be kids and children, and there will be some form of interactivity over here that I can push that'll make things work really, really well. Guys, we've got a lot of things that we've got to work on, and that's simply, let's see, let's get all these. Who else has no food? Let's go here. Let's just do it manually, shall we? I really love this idea of an ever-evolving park system that will always be just expanding. Like, it's just a really cool thing. Now, admittedly, we've lost quite a few people. We still have our bug, which I did push, by the way. I did send in a report for this because it's hilarious, but also a little bit frustrating. I would love to see my park fuller, as it were. But that's not happening because all these boyos and girlos are stuck here, which I do think is hilarious. Maybe I can post in the Discord and see what happens, or if there's a way I can push that differently. What else do we got over here? We got lots and lots of food. Let's do a couple of management things real quick. For instance, we need... we're good on fish. Let's go ahead and fully stock up on that order there. We should be right as rain. Overall, our habitats is not something that we can see. Hopefully that gets resolved in the future, because that is a little bit frustrating. And then that's just a little general bug, because there is definitely food in all of those enclosures. As you can see though, we have a huge amount of finances. We have $1.3 million, which is awesome. I think we're going to take a look at it, and see what kind of a dinosaur that we want. Now remember, this is a wetlands and or / desert. Probably going to push more desert here, but again, this idea that we can be flexible. We can say this is almost an oasis, almost, and I could probably actually drop in some more oasis type foliage to bring in this idea of making this an oasis that does coincide with a desert experience, which I think is a pretty good solution overall. But we need to find another desert / wetland. I'm going to lean towards a desert biome creature, because I think that would be the most relevant here. Now, that's a wetland. We're going to do this live. Let's take a look at our Dilophosaurus. So that little scrubland bush is what we're looking for in a dinosaur. And to be quite frank, we could do the Coelophysis, which would be really interesting to do overall. Our Torvasaurus does actually excel in that desert biome, and he is a meat dino. So maybe the Torvasaurus will be our next one, at least a couple of those guys over there. Overall, I don't think we really have a lot. Our Protoceratops, which were already in the game, but we could definitely have a mixed environment. If we could have a Protoceratops and something else, that would be appropriate, not a Torvasaurus. But like the Torvasaurus, oh, the Camarasaurus. I wonder if a Torvasaurus would eat the Camarasaurus. Regardless, I can actually get the Camarasaurus, but we're actually going to go ahead and unlock the Torvasaurus. I'm going to get both of these. I don't know. I really like the volcanic. I'm going to get the volcanic. Yeah, it's worth it to just get both. Now, the real kicker is, what do we have? Do we have the capabilities of actually getting this dinosaur into our exhibit? So if we go here, our Torvasaurus, no, it's too large for the current nursery. So we are going to, we are going to have to get into some research, and I'm going to have to unlock the nursery size 3, which is $750,000. Had I known that, probably wouldn't have invested in both of those dinosaurs. Regardless, it's okay. It's not the end of the world for us. It does just simply mean, hello, I filled it up. Okay. It does simply mean that like it's gonna be a good while, because if we can look at our nursery holder, a Torvasaurus, it doesn't even give me a size. That's okay though. But look at this gorgeous creature. Absolutely gorgeous. And that's gonna be a tier 3 or 3-star dinosaur. Anyways, they are a desert creature requiring 20 to 55% of forest, a good deal of water. So this is a situation, guys, where I feel like the coastal or the scrubland, we can make a desert scenario that also has an oasis. And I think maybe even for this one, instead of making it come out of a rock, we can build an exhibit that has a spring inside, because it's typically what oases have. We're also going to have to research a strength 3 fence, which I don't know that we have anywhere. This is a strength 2, so I'm also going to have to come in and research a strength 3. So honestly, guys, by the next time you see this episode, we're probably going to be well into maybe even year 11, simply because I need to be able to afford this and expand. So with that in mind though, if you could give me ideas on what to name this area, now that we officially know we're going by theme and biome, what you would do for a desert oasis style theme of the park. Now we have a huge expanse to go into, and I think that's one of the best parts about having so much land. We're never going to get back here. We never are. Let's just face it. But we do have the capabilities of really expanding, doing some mixed dinosaur zoning over here in our desert. And to be honest, we could even potentially turn this into almost like its own oasis, have some restaurants here, have some pathways and maybe some shrubland gardens, and expand that desert biome as far as we can with as much as we can do with it. There's so many possibilities, and I am incredibly excited. But today, guys, that's going to be it for our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. I do appreciate all of your support, and if you would like to become a channel member to financially support this channel and make it even better, you can do so, and I'll let you name an exhibit after yourself, or a part of the park, or even just a small statue like I did with Nexus. And yes, I did fix it, Nexus. I told you before, but confirmation right there that I did fix in memory of Nexus over here. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited for this park. I'm excited to see where it's going. Its trajectory is looking great. I'm not scaling too big, which was the issue last time for myself. I think we've got a really excellent experience that's going on right now, and I hope you do too. Anyways, this is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next episode.
These are nature's greatest creations. This is your park. This is Prehistoric Kingdom.